In my last video, I talked about the longest interstates in America, so I figured why not talk about the shortest? Stick around to number 1 as I need your help in the comments below. Here are the 10 shortest interstates in America. Number 10. Interstate 175 is an urban freeway connecting I-275 to the south side of downtown St. Petersburg in Florida. The freeway ends at 4th Street South and has a total length of only 1.44 miles. This spur route was constructed in 1977 and 1980, along with Interstate 375 that is nearby shortly after Interstate 75 was relocated east of Tampa Bay, and the original Interstate 75 became Interstate 275. The total cost of construction of Interstate 175 in 1980 was $8.5 million. What's interesting about this route is in 1981, AASHTO, which is the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, had originally rejected both I-175 and I-375 as interstate additions that were submitted by the Florida Department of Transportation, stating that there wasn't an approval from the Federal Highway Administration. Once the Federal Highway Administration approved the application, AASHTO approved the application to add both 175 and Interstate 375 to the interstate highway system in 1982. Number 9. Interstate 345 is an unmarked urban freeway that overlaps the southern section of U.S. Highway 75 in downtown Dallas and connects Interstate 30 and Interstate 45 to the south. The total length of Interstate 345 is only 1.4 miles long. AASHTO approved the designation of this interstate in 1970 when it was built in conjunction with Interstate 45 project in the 1970s. Recently, there have been local news coverage of proposals to remove Interstate 345 entirely as it separates downtown from the Deep Ellum neighborhoods. In 2022, the Texas Department of Transportation analyzed 5 alternatives on what to do with Interstate 345 and concluded to reconstruct it below grade and remove the frontage road to reconnect the communities to downtown. Construction could begin as early as 2027, so that'll be kind of cool when that happens. Number 8. Well, we just finished talking about Interstate 175. Now let's talk about Interstate 375, which is an urban freeway spur connecting I-275 to the north side of downtown St. Petersburg in Florida. The freeway connects to 4th and 5th Avenues north and is 1/10 of a mile shorter than its I-175 counterpart to the south with a total length of 1.34 miles. Interstate 375 was constructed between 1977 and 1979. The Florida Department of Transportation prematurely signed North Bay Drive as Interstate 375 in 1972 based upon communications with the Federal Highway Administration. A later application to AASHTO was rejected in 1981, but was approved in 1982 with approval from the Federal Highway Administration, along with the approval from Interstate 175 mentioned earlier in the video. Number 7. Interstate 395 is an urban freeway connecting Interstate 95 in downtown Miami to MacArthur Causeway, which extends to Miami Beach. This interstate is the shortest interstate in Florida with a total length of 1.29 miles. Interstate 395 is part of the truck route that connects to the Port of Miami. There is currently a reconstruction project to rebuild I-395, parts of I-95, and State Route 836, which will cost a total of $840 million and has an estimated completion date of roughly summer of 2026. Interstate 395 was constructed in 2 phases between 1967 and 1971. Number 6. Interstate 587 is extremely interesting as it's a route that connects I-87 to the city of Kingston, New York. Both ends of the freeway spur connect to roundabouts that connect to local roads. I will never understand why this is designated as an interstate, as there are no exits along this route whatsoever, and both ends are traffic-controlled intersections. With all that being said, this route has a total length of only 1.21 miles, but technically isn't the shortest interstate in the state of New York. You'll see why I say technically later on in the video. This interstate was constructed in 1960 and cost only $2.5 million, which seems like nothing nowadays. Not to the normal person. I mean, $2.5 million for me and you would be amazing, but to, like, government, it's nothing. It's a drop in the bucket. Number 5. Interstate 115 is another interesting route, although not as interesting as the previous one. I-115 connects I-15 to the city of Butte in Montana. This spur route has a total length of 1.19 miles. Interstate 115 was constructed at the same time as Interstate 15/90 through town and was completed in 1964. Number 4. Okay, these just keep getting stranger and stranger. This interstate is I-180 in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And if you've never been there, this one's gonna kind of surprise you. This interstate connects I-80 with downtown Cheyenne and has a total length of 1.09 miles. What makes this interstate strange is that it is the only signed interstate highway to not follow interstate highway standards, as it is not a limited access highway. This interstate contains 5 signalized intersections. Honestly, this route shouldn't be an interstate at all, but what do I know? I-180 was constructed in 1979 and cost an estimated $14.25 million. Number 3. Finally, we are back to some sort of normalcy. Kind of. At least my state knows what an interstate is. Looking at you, Wyoming. This interstate is I-194 in Mandan, North Dakota. It is the only interstate spur in the entire state. This unsigned interstate connects I-94 to US Highway 10, which is now known as Memorial Highway. Technically, the freeway continues south and east across the river, but at that point, it is no longer Interstate 94, even though Google Maps says it is, but they are blatantly lying to my face about it, but that's nothing new. From old US Highway 10 to Bismarck, the freeway is technically ND Highway 810, even though it is mostly up to interstate standards, except this tiny section where the sidewalk is unprotected from freeway traffic. With all of that being said, and the North Dakota Department of Transportation map showing that I-194 ends at the old US Highway 10, the total length of I-194 is only 1.07 miles. This interstate was constructed at the same time as I-94. Number 2. Interstate 110 is also unique as it is one of 2 interstate branch routes that end at an international border. I-110 connects I-10 in El Paso, Texas to the Mexico border with a total length of 0.92 miles. The original 110 was constructed in 1973, but was reconstructed starting in 2019 to improve connectivity between I-10 and SL-375 along the border, and also address traffic congestion at the border crossing. This route is now an unsigned interstate, but still belongs to the interstate highway system. Number 1. Kind of. Okay, I need your help for number 1. There are 3 options here, and I want you to comment down below what you think should be number 1. The first option is Interstate 315 in Great Falls, Montana with a total length of 0.83 miles. I-315 is a spur route connecting I-15 to Great Falls. This route is completely unsigned and was built in 1967. This interstate also coincides with several other routes such as I-15 Business Loop, US Highway 89, Montana 200, as well as Montana 3. I don't know, maybe this route doesn't need an interstate designation, but it has one. Let me know if you think this one should be disqualified or not. Number 1. Again. The second option is Interstate 895A in Baltimore, Maryland, with a total length of 0.71 miles. The reason I'm unsure of this route is it's technically a part of a much longer I-895 and only splits to I-895 and I-895B, which then I-895B splits again into I-895A. Did that confuse you? Good, because it confused me too. I-895A connects I-97 and I-695 to I-895B, which eventually connects back up to I-895 to the north. I could see some people arguing that I-895A is its own route and deserves to be in the conversation for the shortest freeway, and I could also see others arguing that I-895A is a part of I-895 and has absolutely no place to be in this list. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Should I-895A be disqualified or not? Number 1. The final one? The third option is unsigned Interstate 878 in Queens, New York, with a total length of 0.7 miles. This one I also have a problem with, as it's technically Interstate 878, but it's also technically State Route 878. Even Google Maps doesn't show it as I-878, and only shows State Route 878. To make matters worse, I-878 is only one direction, and I could argue that disqualifies it from interstate designation, but I don't make the rules here. If you're also going to pull this crap with me about only 0.7 miles of State Route 878 is Interstate 878, then I call BS. Make the entire freeway portion of the route I-878, and I won't say a word. Part of me thinks that this was done on purpose so New York can claim the shortest interstate in America, but at the same time it is designated as I-878 by the Federal Highway Administration, so I can see the argument for this interstate being legit. Let me know if you think this interstate should be disqualified in the comments below. Maybe you think all three options are qualified, and if that's the case, then I-315 in Great Falls would be the third shortest, I-895A would be the second shortest, and I-878 would be the shortest. But that makes me beg the question, why do we have such short interstates, and why do they not go to multiple states? They're called interstates. Don't they go to multiple states? Maybe we should have designated them something else, but still had the federal funding, but not called them an interstate because it's technically not going to any other states? Oh, that's just my rant for the day. I don't understand why we have such short interstate routes. It doesn't make sense to me. Maybe if we get enough people to say, hey, this doesn't make sense, we can change it. We can go to AASHTO and say, hey, this makes no sense. We need to change this. Maybe they'll watch this video, but probably not because, I am who I am. Anyways, I cannot wait to see what you think in the comments below, and would you click that subscribe button? Finally, the most important thing is to remember not to follow your own heart, but to follow the way, the truth, and the life.